cell model provides a framework for understanding the relationship between explicit and implicit learning. Buried in this presentation is a symbiosis between the native English teacher and the local English teacher, non-native speaker. First, a quick review. Our lives consist of three interdependent information streams: experiential, cognitive, and language. When synchronized, they operate as a cell. A cell is a chunk of information flow, a cross-section of the three streams. Each stream can be verified and stabilized by the other two streams. A cell is self-organizing by these explicit and implicit dynamics. This cross-section of a cell shows feedback loops in intersections. Construction grammars coordinate activity between thinking and languaging. Formal logic coordinates at a fundamental level as binaries, logic gates, and yes-no questions. Active inference coordinates perception and action. Hebb's law coordinates concepts with experience. Coordination of the three streams occurs at increasing levels of order, from correlation of smallest parts at the bottom up to synergy of emergent systems at the top. Various approaches to language learning coordinate information flow in one or more of the three streams. Fine-tuning parameters can synchronize the streams, thus stabilizing the cell, or a cell can be teased, disturbed, in order to promote resilience and adaptation. This fine-tuning can use explicit or implicit processes depending on the constraints, affordances, and global conditions. Scaffolding. Using explicit or implicit teaching and the development of adaptive learning strategies. As a side note, functional MRI studies indicate significantly different neural connectivity between explicit and implicit learning. In a nutshell, here's what distinguishes explicit and implicit learning and why implicit learning is generally faster and easier. Unstructured or semi-structured play is the prototype. New skills emerge with new challenges as a qualitative leap rather than merely the accumulation of data. Learning follows a nonlinear developmental path. When events are reoccurring rather than repetitive, they use feed-forward loops to improve the next occurrence. Synthesis often leads to cascading, leverage, and emergence. Learning is expected as inevitable. In two nutshells. Some say explicit learning is error tolerant, but it's more than that. It exploits errors to create novel behavior and drive natural selection. Holistics allows coordination between host system and subsystems. Interactive learning provides better feedback at higher frequency. Self-organization empowers learners to own the learning. They're intrinsically motivated by awareness of their own progress. Learning implicitly empowers explorative learning. Select what's relevant, internalize it, expand it, refine it, rinse and repeat. Explicit learning focuses on some abstraction, some rule of syntax, pronunciation, morphology, etc. It's great for testing, remediation, and reinforcement. Does all this look familiar? It should, because it resembles a once popular cognitive framework, the left-right brain hypothesis, the implicit right brain, high-speed, large volume automatic, the left brain, explicit, slower, small volume, reductionist, and formal. Here it is in more detail. Pause the video and compare. Keep in mind that these are generalizations. Your mileage may vary. Explicit learning accommodates the needs of institutions at the sacrifice of individual learning. Implicit mode liberates the subject matter, allows personal creative learning at the expense of regimentation. Explicit modes are more suitable from the teaching perspective. The implicit model better represents the process from the learning perspective. As a spectrum rather than a polarity, we see not a compromise, but a symbiosis. We can model blended methods such as CLIL, TPR, PBL, flipped classroom, role models, milling, pair work, etc. We can also blend individual learning strategies. These empower the learner to naturally gravitate to their own Goldilocks zone. Here's a quick reminder of the complexity spectrum. A seed is simpler than a sprout, simpler than a sapling, than a tree, and so on up the spectrum. Complexity increases up the spectrum. It's more than a coincidental that learning strategies and teaching methods on the explicit-implicit spectrum reflect complexity spectrum. Rote learning is simpler than spelling practice, than listen and repeat drills, than emulating, etc. This is to be expected as holistic methods treat a greater interaction, relying on more complex learning strategies. The cell model allows teachers to coordinate learning strategies with methodologies. Explicit learning is more conducive to the summative, exacting correlation and coordination of information. Implicit learning is more conducive to synchrony, synergy, self-organization, emergence, and top-down processing, complex dynamic adaptive systems. Learners work their way up the flow channel by co-adapting, explore-exploit cycles, explicit-implicit cycles. Use the implicit-explicit spectrum as an inventory for foreign English teacher and local English teacher to compare strengths and weaknesses, to arrive at a symbiosis, and to create lessons which support both explicit and implicit learning strategies simultaneously. Thank you for your kind attention.